This is Robert with Pioneer Smokehouses, and today we're going to run a little test on some frozen pork ribs. Now, I'm going to use St. Louis cut because they're easy to use and I really like the nice symmetrical pieces. Also, we're using the Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker, and this here is not the largest model. This is an 18-inch, and we need to make sure that we don't get it too large. Otherwise, it won't fit in there and we'll have to trim it. And a frozen rib would be pretty hard to trim. So first thing I did was I went ahead and set up a fire, and you'll see here that I'm running kind of a modified snake method. I really didn't go to all the trouble to, divide it really well. But I put a lit fire in the very front, and I filled it in and worked back towards the fire and left a gap so it'll only burn one way. And we have just come up to temperature, so I'll go ahead and pop that pitcher up right there at 225. And you want to monitor it and back down your vents a little bit. Currently, I have the top vent open all the way, the front bottom open all the way, and then this side, which is the direction we're burning in, open. And I think I'll probably end up closing that side in a minute here. I wanted to keep the racks of ribs frozen as long as possible, so that way we can get a really good idea on this test. And our cooking method today is going to be kind of a modified 3-2-1. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 2 and then about 1-1. I don't like mushy ribs, and that middle phase really tends to mush them out. And I also don't really care for them to be overcooked. Then we can add on a little bit more cook time at the end if need be. And if they're done, then we can either rest them or toss them in a Ziploc bag in the sous vide. Either way, they'll be just fine after we get our results from our test. So let's take a quick break while I run in the house and go get the ribs. So I decided to get the other camera out so we can get a little bit of a close-up. Now, we're not going to do a lot of detail on this, but I want you to see what I'm doing. So at some points we're going to fast forward through it and you'll still get an idea of what's going on. Now, for tools, I brought out the curved boning knife, the cooking scissors or kitchen scissors, and a dull butter knife. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open up this one. This is the refrigerated one. And the thing about that is that I rinsed off the frozen one and wanted to give it a minute or two to dry out, and I forgot that there's a bunch of liquid in here, so I'm going to dump that. I'll be right back. And now that I've got that off of there, I can go ahead and give this pull out of here. There's still a lot of liquid in the bottom, so I'm going to try not to make a big mess of that. And like I was mentioning, these are St. Louis style spare ribs, and they're all nice and symmetrical, and I'll show you that just like this. And you can see that there's not going to be a lot of trimming required. I do like to take this off right here, so I'll just take the boning knife, put it right in there, come across. Not looking for perfection, but I want to make it nice and even. And then the next thing that I'll do is I'll remove a bunch of the silver skin by running the knife right along the back of one of the ribs towards the center. Try to keep it out of the meat, but into the fat is fine. And then you'll see that if you get it just right, you can lift that silver skin up. This one's coming out remarkably well. Nice big piece of silver skin right there. And then there's just a little bit left here. I should be able to get this So now here's the trick. Once you've broken it up into pieces, the only way to really grab onto it is with a paper towel. So now I've got the end of it. I put the paper towel on it, and boom. And that's good enough. So I'm going to just set that to the side for now while we work on the other piece. Now my first concern is that the silver skin is going to be on there, and I don't think there's any way to get it off of frozen ribs. So your options really come down to thawing your frozen ribs for an hour or so to get the surface to loosen up a little bit, and then you might be able to get it off of there. So let's see what we've got here. And a lot of that liquid that was loose in the other package is frozen to the rib. Yeah, see, it's just kind of frozen there. And I'll be honest, I don't really care for that much. So I'm going to take a really quick break, and I'm just going to rinse it just a little bit. So I'll be right back. So I was able to rinse that off real quick, no problem, just came right off. Now the first thing I notice is that where I trimmed that little piece there, that's not going to be an option here because it's completely frozen in. Let's see if we can do anything with the silver skin, and I think that giving it that rinse actually loosened up the silver skin enough that we'll be able to get underneath there and get at least some of it out. Now something on this one is we have a little pocket of fat right here, which happens from time to time. You can see there's a little bit spread out here, but not enough to worry about. But this is a little thick. And the nice thing about the fat is that it doesn't freeze very well. And even when it does freeze, it actually makes it easier to cut because it stays real solid. So far, so good. We're able to remove most of the silver skin on both of these. Now, I'm going to season it with two things. I'm going to use my all-purpose 3-2-1 rub, and I'm also going to use some garlic granules. Now, there's garlic in this, but on pork ribs and a lot of other pork products, I like to put additional garlic. When you use crappy old bottles, you can take them in the house when you're done cooking, and you can rinse them off and then use a Lysol wipe on it to clean the bottle off before you put it back in the cabinet. Now after you get it coated, give it a press down. The frozen one, not sticking so well. The unfrozen one, just like normal, you give it a little push, it sticks in there. I'm going to take this like this. So this one cut piece has a bunch of silver skin on the back. I'm not going to do anything special with that. I'll just eat around it. Because of that, I don't think there's any need to put any more seasoning on it because that's not going to go anywhere. Now I'm ready to go ahead and put them in here. I checked the temperature and I closed down the vents a little bit, and I actually dropped under the target temperature. So let's open them back up just a touch and see if we can get back up there. Now it's going to peak up just a little bit because I'm going to open it up and you're going to get a lot of airflow through here. And look at that smoke, that is perfect. It's not dirty, but it's burning right along. With the snake method, you're not going to get as clean of a smoke as you would with a hot fire. And go ahead and put the frozen one on first. And we're going to put it right here, trying to keep it from touching the rim, but I don't see any way that we're going to avoid that. Put this one in the same way. A little separation. See, that one's not going to touch the rim because it's going to fold over a little bit, which is perfect. So we would want to cut these down a little bit for this size smoker. And our scraps, we're going to go ahead and put those on here. The nice thing about the scraps is while they won't be broken down, they'll be cooked and edible sooner. So that way we'll get an idea of the flavor profile before it comes off and know if we want to add any additional sauces. So I'll go ahead and put this lid back on. And I think it just barely cleared because I felt it when I tapped it over, but then it moved away a little bit. So I'm going to watch this for about 15 minutes and make sure we get where we want to be with the temperature. And then I'll set the timer and we will cook it like this for 2 hours. And that's when I'll see you again. I'm going to maintain a temperature of about 225 to 235. I don't want to go under, but I'm okay with going just a touch over as long as I don't go above 250. So I'll see you here in 1 more second for you and 2 hours for me. It has been almost exactly 2 hours, and I did check it, and at first, say 30 minutes was really hard to get the temperature balanced in, but it just needed a little bit more air than what I was giving it, and then it balanced out perfectly. We're running exactly at 225. Again, I wouldn't mind going just a little over, but 225 is fine. Now, we're going to take these out and we're going to wrap them. And we'll go from there and see how it goes. Now, I'm going to say that it's pretty difficult to keep the lid on while you're doing this process. And so I'm not worried too much about that. But also, the more air that gets inside the smoker, the more that it'll actually heat up. So we want to go ahead and let it heat up a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the door also. This will just increase the burning. And when we're done with this, I'll probably add a little bit more charcoal to it. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off 2 pieces of heavy duty aluminum foil that's big enough to completely wrap each piece. Whoa, getting a little windy out here. This is the refrigerated one. See it in there? Looks really nice. I'm going to pull it up in there and then fold this up just a little bit. Pull that over. And then wrap it tight and then give it a little push down. Then I'm going to take one end. And I'm going to seal this really good. A couple wraps. And that just barely fits in there. Now, our secret ingredient is something called Dr. Stevia. It's diet cola that basically is a stevia base that imitates Dr. Pepper. And I'm going to put 4 ounces in there. Actually going to go about 3.5. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to get that sealed up. The other one is just a little larger. This one barely fit in here, so I think I'm gonna make an effort to get a bigger piece of tinfoil for the second one. That's very common for the tinfoil to get damaged in the process and poke a hole and release a lot of the liquids. If you're really concerned about that, then double wrap it. I don't worry too much about it. I'm gonna get it in there, make sure we get the flavor around a little bit. And we just want to make sure it gets a good steam started on it. And I'm gonna move this over just a little bit because there's a lot of stuff there and it'll stick to the tinfoil. Little bits dripping out. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this piece off and get that lid back on. Okay, this is the piece that I left on there that was part of that I trimmed off the back. And I'm going to bring that up to the big camera here and show you. Now, the silver skin is kind of holding it all together. So we won't be eating the silver skin. We'll just peel this off. Beautiful color, a little fat in there. There's a little bit of salt in the mixture, but you taste the natural salt from the pork. That's why I really like that flavor from the pork, and it's not like a real sodium-y flavor that overwhelms you. Real nice and subtle. We're going to go ahead and run this for about an hour. And we're targeting 250 degrees for this hour's part of the cook. And I will go ahead and tend to the charcoal. I'm probably going to add a little bit more to it because I don't want it to run short. It's burning really nice right now, but it's only going to burn nice like that for another 30 minutes. And we're going to need a lot more time than that for this to run. So it needs to run another 2 hours. I'll go ahead and add more charcoal to it and push it around just a little bit. If you want to service the whole thing, what you can do is take your hot gloves or some heavy-duty canvas gloves, and I just happen to have these Weber ones, and they're really nice and they're not very expensive. The Amazon link is in the description in case you want to check out the price. And you can lift the whole thing off, and then you can tend the fire. If you do it right, most of the heat will stay in here while you do that. And you just got to be quick when you're working, that way it doesn't go without the heat for too long. But this part will stay hot the entire time. So again, we're targeting 250, and I'm just gonna, like I said, move the coals around a little bit and add a little bit more to it. And I will be back in 1 hour for me, but that'll only be 1 second for you. So it's been an hour in the wrap, and a traditional 3-2-1 method has 2 hours in the wrap, but I think that gets a little bit of a mushy result, and I like my meat a little firmer than that. If you like your meat softer, then leave it wrapped longer, and also wrap it tighter. Like I said earlier in the last segment, is that I'm not so worried if it's perfectly sealed, if a little bit of juice escapes, not a big deal to me. But if it's a big deal to you, again, wrap it more carefully and handle it more carefully. Now we're running at 250, so these are going to be a touch warm. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use these gloves real quick. .225 is not hard to handle, but Once it gets above that, it starts getting a little more difficult. So we're going to unwrap these and dump all the juice right in the tray. Well, you can just look at that and see that these are almost done. Look at that, and look how juicy they are. Boy, they look good. Now let's see. I'm going to try to get them right back in there exactly the way they came out. Actually, I'm going to flip them around. Well, those look really good, and I think it's hard to resist, so I'm going to take this end piece off right here. Then we'll go ahead and put the lid back on. I'm going to take a look inside here real quick. Oh, that's perfect. It's all burning just fine. Might pick up one or two of these briquettes and throw them up on the top of the pile. Now I think this is the one from the refrigerator, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it up here real close. Look at that color. Beautiful, nice pink smoke color there. That's the reaction, you know, for the gases and stuff. And these Weber Smokey Mountain Cookers let in such a small amount of air that they have a really good reaction without modification. So the modifications that have been done to this smoker are not in sealing at all. The only benefit to sealing here has been the fact that it's well seasoned, so there's going to be a little bit of debris around the edges, which tightens it up a little bit. But you can see a little bit of smoke is coming out here, but no problem. So let's give this a little taste. That is really good. If I wasn't doing keto, it could have benefited from a little bit of brown sugar. Yeah, this is good. I'm not positive which one it is, but I'm pretty sure that it's the one from the fridge. But when I pull them back out, I'll look at the bottom and I'll be able to tell by the one that was trimmed and the one that wasn't trimmed which one's which. So we have an hour to go here, and we're just trying to dry up the surface and give it a nice crispy bark, and it'll be done. If we wanted to eat them now, there's absolutely no reason that we couldn't, or we could sauce them up and throw them on the gas grill or a char grill. So whatever works for you. But I'm just going to dry them up here a little bit, and they'll be fine. I'm going to keep the temperature under 275 for this stage, but I'd like to stay closer to 250. But it's going to be kind of hard because we're getting down to the end and pretty much most of that charcoal is lit up. So I'll be back in 1 hour for me and 1 second for you. It is time. We are done now. I checked on it a few minutes ago and boy, it looked good. Hopefully it didn't burn between then and now. Oh, look at that. I'm going to go ahead and show you these right here. So you see the back side. Let's flip them over. This one is the frozen one. All right, now I typically like to cut these from the back. I brought one of my Victorinox boning knives out here, and it's definitely a very thin, sharp blade. Before I had the curved boning knife, I used to use this a lot to trim my briskets. Now typically I would let these sit for 5 or 10 minutes. Turn that around. A little hard to get a good cut without a cutting board. So let's take the refrigerator one first. I'll show you that. Oh, look how nice and soft that is, but still all the way done. Very juicy. Boy, that's good. What I really want to know is if there's a difference. So this one's the freezer one, and I think it's just slightly softer. The taste is exactly the same. Freezer one on the bottom, refrigerator on the top. A little bit more of a smoke ring on the freezer one. So that would make a little bit of sense though, because the smoke ring is generated by a chemical reaction between the myoglobin and the gases that are emitted by the burning fuel. So the colder piece will actually have a longer reaction and get that deeper smoke ring. You see how red that ring is. It's almost blood red there. But the taste is, like I said, identical. So I think we can call this test successful for cooking ribs right out of the freezer. There's absolutely no reason to thaw your ribs ahead of time from the freezer more than say 15-20 minutes, just so you can remove the silver skin and get the trim that you want. Now, if you want to trim them up and if you have a full slab and you want to St. Louis them yourself, then you're going to need them thawed to cut them like that. And really, you should just buy them that way because it's so much easier if they pre-trim them and everything. But the taste is identical. The smoke ring is a little bit more pronounced in the frozen, and also they're just a touch softer. I'm assuming that's because it actually cooks slower because of the temperature, but I don't really know. I like a little bit firmer myself, so there's nothing wrong with that. And again, taste is identical. So again, today we used the Weber Smokey Mountain Cooker, and this is by far one of my favorite charcoal smokers there is. And I call this the pork butt king. If you plan on cooking a lot of pork butts or even smoking roasts like chuck roast or small briskets, this thing is where it's at. You'll find links in the description. Those are all affiliate links. I do get compensated for those, but just check the price on this. Even you clicking on that link will help support the channel, even if you don't buy anything. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. I'm gonna go eat these. Bye.